also pick Bello's thoughts. Bello, what comes to mind when we talk about Kwame Nkrumah?
Well, I think for me, Nkrumah was a paradox. He was a conundrum. He was an enigma. And I think he was best described by Ali Mazuri when he said Nkrumah was a giraffe in the midst of sheep.
Wow.
He saw where nobody could see. Because if you look at his projects, his vision, the man was way ahead of his time. Far, far too ahead for his colleagues to match his pace. And the question is, have we, even his descendants, been able to catch a glimpse of what he envisaged? I beg to differ. I think we are far from seeing what he really thought of. Nkrumah was a conception that only God can describe, only God can understand. He was a rare being. Because this is a person who could rally the world around him. Don't forget, Nkrumah was a pivot behind the whole idea of non-aligned movement.
Yeah.
And he was able to persuade leaders beyond the 54 African countries. At the time, we were even less than 54 independents. So Nkrumah was probably not just a voice for Africa. He was a leaning rock for the third world at the time. So if anybody has ever described Nkrumah in the way he should be described, it's Ali Mazuri. He was just a giraffe in the midst of sheep.
We could see beyond what his peers and people around him were seeing. But what are some of the things that you think we should know about Nkrumah that we are not touting enough? What are some of the things that we need to know about him? And I mean, Bello, back to you.
So I think for me, I think we should first of all avoid ideological dogmatism. Nkrumah was a pragmatist. In as much as he was left-leaning, he was pragmatic. Whatever favors Ghana's interest was what he goes for. Irrespective of his stance, Akosombo came from the West.
Well, that's true.
So we should always learn to prioritize national interests beyond selfish gains. We should always learn to look at how to protect our interests in a very complex world of geopolitics. Secondly, we should always try to make a distinction between Nkrumah as a leader, as a visionary, and Nkrumah as a human, because we cannot deny his own flaws.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So that should be a lesson for us to avoid. But then, we should, as much as possible, if we can't match his pace, we should at least keep moving. I believe that over 5 decades since his time, it would be imprudent and bad for us to replicate everything he did the way it was then, because we need to consider several factors.
Absolutely.
The geopolitical thing has changed in a unipolar world, veering towards a multipolar system. But then we should always look at, if he was with us today, what to be his next card to play. And by so we'll be able to guide ourselves in making sure that we create the Ghana you envisage, a Ghana that stands tall among its peers, a Ghana that does not speak for itself alone, that echoes the voice of so many across the continent. And I think that is where we should start from. Identifying Nkrumah as a visionary, as a distinction from Nkrumah as a human being with his own personal flaws. And I think that's the best kind of service we can give to Nkrumah. Because replicating his own mistake, if he were to resurrect today, he would always be happy.
Absolutely.
And I don't think he would be happy to see us replicating his own mistakes. Because if you really look at Nkrumah in Guinea and Nkrumah in Ghana, he saw some of the excesses. And he had hoped that had he come back, he would have at a certain point in time even relinquished a lot of powers to the party and remain in Peduasi.
Yeah.
To just kind of be behind the scene and try to regulate things.
Yeah.
Because realize that being too overly involved led to some of the excesses. For example, at a certain point he wasn't even told what he was supposed to be told. And so he said that had you known that Ghanaians actually wanted milk and water for free, he would have given to them rather than pursuing so much development. He was not trying to tell you that he would have compromised on development, but perhaps he would have changed his approach.
That's true.
To development.
Because he was more focused on let's get a foundation, let's get the things running, and then we can look at the other things later. But people were also demanding other things that he didn't know about, and very interesting. We're going to talk about so I mean, when we talk about his dream, what were some of the things that we can talk about? What were some of the things that we can highlight? And let me come to you, Abel. I think we've left you in the conversation, so let me bring you in.
I'm following. I'm enjoying the conversation so far.
What were some of the? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Like I mentioned earlier, for Nkrumah, Pan-Africanism was not just a dream; it was a development strategy.
Right.
If you look at the period between the formation of the OAU then and today, and the struggles that African countries are facing, both at home and in the global space, or in the global sphere of politics, then you understand that foresight built an African unity that the rest of the African leaders couldn't see, and thought it was just a mere dream. I mean, the reality, some will say the chickens have come home to roost, and today we are in this space where we can't even do some of the basic things for our own country. And that was a man back then with that foresight to be able to tell that a time will come where Africa will be left, in global conversation because of our very tiny vision, at the time. But in terms of development also, you could tell that for him, it was not just about the population then. Like Michael said, what was Ghana's population in 1951, 1960? What was our population like? So the things he had begun doing, the industrialization spree that he embarked on, was not for that particular decade, but it was also then a broader vision and a broader strategy that in the next decade, Ghana will be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with other economies at the time. What did we do? Right after his overthrow in 1966, revisitation of policy, structural adjustment programs, privatization, almost all the factories that Nkrumah had built, the vision to sustain them was no longer there, and they all went away. The few that have remained, we've never been able to manage them properly. Today, we are talking about industrialization again. The conversation about our politics today is that all the political parties agree that the only way we can get out of the quagmire that we are in is through industrialization. How do we go about it?
68 years on.
Yes, we can't even agree on how we can go about it, and we've been doing pockets of industries that have no real effect on the economy. Because Nkrumah saw it, almost 70 years, and we are still primary raw exporters of cocoa, of gold, among others. Have we gone forward? So if you look at, even in education, at the time he took over, there was a huge disparity between northern Ghana and southern Ghana. Then he envisioned education and said, no, education is the key to our national development. And if we don't bridge that gap, then there's going to be a challenge. Free education went to northern Ghana. Nkrumah prioritized technical and vocational education and training. What happened? Today, we've built many classroom blocks which have no workshop. You go to Kintampo Technical Training Institute, many of the technical training institutes, they have no workshops. So you have classroom blocks with no workshop. Where do your people get the skills? Nkrumah didn't just want thinkers, he wanted doers. So if you look at his educational strategy, if you go back to, I think, 1961, then when he rolled out his education plan, the whole plan pivoted around technical and vocational education. Where did we go with that after 1966? We went back to the white-collar jobs, white-collar thinking, and that is what we are faced with. Huge unemployment today. Our employment numbers don't even speak. The unemployment numbers we have speaks to only those who are actively looking for jobs and are dropping applications. So you can imagine those who don't drop applications
at all,
and yet are in the system.
Right.
Huge unemployment gap. Do you understand? So every sector by sector, we are talking about a man whose vision many people saw as a dream. For me, it was not just a dream. These visions were broad development strategies geared towards not only liberating Ghana, but also empowering the country. And not only Ghana, Africa as a whole, and like Bello said, not only in Africa, but also for third world countries at the time, that looked up to him for guidance. And it's unfortunate that, I don't think it is even unfortunate. Of course, he left in 1966. I mean, for me, I call it a political rupture that disrupted Ghana's progress. But what did we learn from that? I don't think that 50 to 60 years we've just been in the wilderness. I mean, for even the Israelites and God, they did 40 years. We've done more than 40 years, and we still can't find our way out of it.
Right.
It's
out of the woods
such
yet.
a shame. Yeah, it's just a shame.
Well, very, very. I mean, I could sense from your voice how passionate you are about this particular conversation, and we're going to talk about some of the things that we've been able to build on very well, and the ones that we've left behind. Yes, but let me come to Michael as well. Michael, so what were some of the things that Nkrumah dreamt of that is at the heart of it for you? Abel talked about Pan-Africanism, industrialization. What are some of the things you can also talk about, Mike?
I will say that Kwame Nkrumah wanted the Ghanaian to be able to look within to solve any challenge we are confronted with. He wanted to build a society where whenever we are confronted with any challenge of national concern, we do not have to go outside to look for experts to come and help us. He wanted us to, at the end of the day, have the ability, the capacity to be able to engineer our own progress. So when you look at some of his intentions, especially taking the fact that this Ghana Atomic Energy, he had wanted us to begin the production of our own nuclear, nuclear machines and everything that was needed for that. And then also the way and manner in which he structured our university education, such that the University of Ghana is focusing on the arts. Then when you need engineers, when you need people in technology, when you need scientists, you go to Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Where you need people who will be educators, teachers, lecturers. The University of Cape Coast, the University of Education in Winneba were there to provide such expertise. He wanted, and he made sure that in these universities, the best of lecturers, the best of programs, relevant to what is needed in this country, is what is taught in those schools. So that at the end of the day, we can have the intellectual capacity, we can have the hands-on people to take charge of all our national problems. I think it's something that was very, very phenomenal of Kwame Nkrumah to think of. You look at the factories that he built, like Abel and my brother Bello have also mentioned, the factories he built, tire factories, Valco, aluminium, glass factories and all that. Today, all of these things, we are importing them. But had we continued with these projects that he put in place, I don't think we'll need to import any of these things. He built silos for food. Today, what is our food security situation? We are grappling. We always trumpet the fact that we have arable land and all that. Of course, he mentioned it, but also he provided plans for developing such industries. Because in his time, he realized that about 50 to 60%, I think in his 7-year development plan, he mentioned that when you take 3 Ghanaians, 2 of them are farmers, right? And if 2 out of every 3 Ghanaians are farmers, what does it mean? It means that we have to prioritize agriculture. So he put in place plans for providing irrigation, providing machinery that will be necessary to be able to speed up our development in our agri sector and other sectors of our economy, of our national life as well. This is the vision Kwame Nkrumah had, which he actually even started implementing.
Yeah.
Right?
There weren't visions anymore.
Exactly. He started implementing them, and then we were seeing the fruits of these implementations until, unfortunately, he left office. Right? So, Kwame Nkrumah's vision, Kwame Nkrumah's actions for Ghana are something that we cannot ignore at all. We cannot ignore them at all.
Bello, let me bring you into the conversation as well. So what for you stands out? I think Abel has spoken about Pan-Africanism, industrialization. Michael also talked about the education, the factory, and all of that. What are some of the things you can also talk about?
One is sovereignty, national unity, and then above all, self-confidence for the black man. You see, Nkrumah was first of all to him an African.
Yeah.
Secondly, a Ghanaian. The last of his identity was his tribe, Nzema. But today, where are we? Fighting over what languages to be at our airports and our stuffs. That's the clear sign of defeat. We have failed to achieve that Ghanaianness and Nkrumah vision. If indeed we really see ourselves as Ghanaians, I understand sentiment of those who want to, and I share the understanding of those who believe in our diversity. That yes, we are diverse. So at each place where you have certain majority in region, I mean, they could be Lobaka, Accra, whatever.
Yeah.
And that tells you that Ghana is cosmopolitan, Ghana is multi-ethnic. By the way, it does not sacrifice our national identity as Ghanaians before. One. And then secondly, to the point where, the man had to dissolve parties created based on the original, identity and ethnic identity. That tells you how important he holds the idea of national unity. Because he saw that if we don't really pursue a deliberate or intentional approach to seeing ourselves as one, I mean, in the long run, we'll be divided. And so if you look at one of the reasons why Ghana appears more stable than Nigeria from the First Republic is because going into the First Republic in Nigeria, the parties emerged with regional identities. The MPC, United People's Congress in the north, Action Group in the west, and then NCNC, National Congress for Nigeria and Cameroons in the east. And we saw how it ushered in the coup d'etat and the chaos that engulfed. But Nkrumah was able to project and avoid that for Ghana because he ensured that, yes, parties emerge with national identities, not tribal regional outlook. And then,
but it was misunderstood.
Yeah. And then if you look at another failure of us when it comes to sovereignty, it's just how we handled Kantanka. May so rest in peace. If Nkrumah was to be alive, I don't think Nkrumah would have willingly invited Volkswagen to come establish an assembly plant or Toyota in Ghana whilst Kantanka is struggling. Whilst New Plan, a state-owned company, was collapsing. Why should we have New Plan manufacturing buses, but Metro must always import buses? If you talk about the cost, there's an economic of scale. Economy of scale. If I produce 2 and you produce 10, your cost for production will be lower than mine. So why not the state begin to prioritize acquisition from the so-called state companies? In the short run, the cost might be high for government. But in the long run, when they are able to stand on their feet, it saves money. Spare parts wouldn't be imported. You have locally, technicians will be trained because it will serve as a training ground for tertiary students to go and do their internship.
Yeah.
I mean, the benefit is huge. I mean, you can look at Embraer in Brazil. It was a state-funded company because no Brazilian individual could have established an aircraft industry. Today, Embraer is the third largest aircraft manufacturer in the world. Deliberate policy, intentionality. So for me, it's about these three things: sovereignty, national unity, and self-confidence. If you don't trust what you have, you wouldn't even see the need to prioritize it over imported goods.
Absolutely.
And the only time Ghana ever came near to being self-sufficient was as a result of somebody who envisaged Nkrumah a champion.
Yeah.
He also pursued that self-reliance. Take Nkrumah and his protege that tried to be like him out. Everybody, for me, in terms of self-reliance, was just a shamble. Yeah, we can give them their pluses somewhere. But in terms of self-confidence, self-reliant, domestication, collectively, every successive government that came has been a failure. We've imported that even today in our parliament. I'm sure the chairs are made in China.
You got everybody laughing, you know. So I feel very sad when I talk about these things. You can see how teary I've gotten when just when you talked about that. It's Charlie. Continue.
And to even add, at the time Nkrumah started Ghana Airways, and I think Ethiopia had also started they had started earlier, and they had a plan that within 30 years, their national airline, they would transition to full ownership, in terms of top managers and everything, and all the workers of Ethiopian. Today, Ethiopia, has roots in every country, or in Africa, and outside, Asia, Europe, among others, with over hundreds of fleets. Where is our airways? Where is the Black Star that was supposed to be flying in the air? Even that one, we couldn't maintain it. And look at Ghana's central position. Because if you are the gateway to Africa and you don't fly, how do people come to your country? You are losing revenue in all those areas. Aside that, your cities are not connected. Even by road. Today as we speak, the entire regional cities of Ghana are not properly connected. That's like the Eastern Corridor, the Western Corridor. We talk about major trunks through the Upper East, Upper West, all the way to Northeast. All of them are not connected. So what is your position when you say that you are the shining star in Africa? When people come to you, what do they learn? We developed a decentralization agenda in the 80s. Other countries came and picked our decentralization agenda and went and implemented it, and it's working for them. And so today we are still debating on whether to have non-partisan decentralization agenda or to have a partisan decentralization agenda. All these issues, you look at them, and you can tell that many of the leaders after Kwame Nkrumah, like Bello puts it, they've not had forthright in vision. They've not had, I don't think, even sincere ideation about how they want to move the country forward. It's the usual politics, electoral mobilization. How do we get people to vote for us? There's no conviction in our politics as to where we want to go. And that reminds me about one of my professors who always says that Ghana, we don't have thinkers and doers. We have only talkers. People talk and talk. You give them leadership positions, and they keep talking in leadership. They don't do. They don't act in leadership. They keep talking. Talk through elections, talk through power, and that has become the bane of this country. And so when we talk about Nkrumah, for young person like me, it's very emotional, and reading through some of the things he has done, I feel in reenacting some of these things, while it inspires many of us, we shouldn't end there. I mean, we must begin to see some blueprints in national development and across board.
Absolutely. Right. We'll talk about some of the. Okay.
Historic one.
Bello wants to come in. Right.
Have you asked yourself why Ghana has seemed to have a monopoly of slave forts in West Africa? You know, Ghana literally sits in the middle of West Africa.
Yeah.
So most of the slaves that came through our coast were actually not from this coast. Yeah. Samori was not a Ghanaian. Samori was a Guinean, a Jula. Babatu was a Nigerian, if we go by the map today. But they came down here, brought slaves, because Ghana tried to sit in the middle. And it's a strategic position for you to become what?
Very strategic.
The route to West Africa. And do you remember that the old Pantu, the ferry on Akosum, on the Volta Lake, the old one was actually manufactured in Ghana at a shipyard.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And where's the shipyard today? I mean, for me, the talk of Nkrumah is not just emotional. For me, it's traumatic. Because it's like, I think it's that you are caught in between the prospect of a better future and the reality of a shattered one. Because you know, had Nkrumah's dream been achieved, perhaps you have been born in a first world country.
That's true.
Because most of the countries that actually implemented his vision have become first world countries. And that's Singapore.
And now
today we've gone back to Singapore.
You know, technically, China was a product of Nkrumah.
Look at that.
Because Deng Xiaoping actually went to Singapore and realized that you must not be ideologically dogmatic.
Yes.
So he came to tell the Chinese that Mao was 30% and 70% right, 30% wrong. But by then, Nkrumah already understood that you must be pragmatic.
Yeah.
And he divided the Ghanaian economy, I think, into 4 sectors. You had areas that were strictly for state monopoly, the extractive sector, because that was his bargaining chip.
Yeah.
You had areas that were required joint venture, not because Ghana couldn't fund it somehow, technical capacity.
Yeah.
You had areas that were reserved for cooperatives, agriculture. The state wasn't coming to take over; the state was to complement.
Exactly.
So state farms were there.
Yeah.
But he didn't want farmers to talk as individual because he believed in unity.
Yeah.
Cooperative.
Because there's power.
And
in
there's a place he left for the individual Ghanaians to compete. So to tell me Nkrumah was a leftist, yes, Nkrumah was a leftist, but Nkrumah wasn't like Mao or Lenin. Nkrumah was Nkrumah.
He was pragmatic.
And everybody at certain point had to understand that if you implement socialism strictly as it is theoretically written by Marx, after almost a century or so of Marx's demise, you get it wrong. And all those who made reforms are where they are today. The Chinese, the Vietnamese, the Singaporeans, you name them. And
Taiwan, South Korea. Yeah.
And we are here struggling to get 3 square meal. Still debating how to die. Because Galamsey to me is not about how to live, it's about how to die. Do we die slowly by allowing them to continue whilst we try to reclaim the water? Or we just go there, stop it at a while, and then... So it's like we are debating how to die. Whether we die quick or we die slow. Because we all know Galamsey will surely kill us.
Yeah. You see, and sadly... sorry.
Go ahead.
Sadly, Kwame Nkrumah wrote everything, almost everything. Exactly. He put them on paper. But why is it so difficult for us to refer to them and use them as a blueprint
partisanship
for our development journey? This morning I was looking to find his 7-year development plan. And guess the website I found it on? The National Development Planning Commission website. That was where I found Kwame Nkrumah's 7-year development plan. That was where I found it. But today, if we are trying to find out how far the NDPC has gone in implementing his blueprints, we are far behind. So why can't we
take up... Nkrumah is the reason why Ghana has influence across the continent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because look at Ghana's population. Ghana still roughshod out Nigeria.
Exactly.
Yeah, looking at their numbers.
Exactly. Most of African countries.
Because of the sacrifice of Nkrumah, African countries find it more convenient to pay Ghana more like support Ghana's a gratitude.
Gratitude for some of the things that they did.
So Ghana is actually punching above its weight on African continent.
because looking at, I mean, it's a very serious thing. Because looking at our numbers, we don't match up with a lot of.
Yeah. We don't match up Nigeria. We don't match up South Africa's industrial capacity. We don't match up Egypt's population.
But we still carry some weight.
Neither do we match up Ethiopians. Ethiopia hosts African Union.
Yeah.
But we still punch above our weight.
Okay, you hold on for me briefly. Let me announce the phone lines and get our listeners who want to join the conversation to call in. If you want to join the conversation, I would love to hear from you. What do you think about what we're talking about? What do you think about Nkrumah's vision? Are we making some progress? Have we made some progress over the years? Where are we now? What do you have to say about that? Please send me a WhatsApp. You can send me a voice note or a text message 0544 321019 0544 321019 0544 321019. You can send me a WhatsApp and then I read your messages for you or play your voice note. You can also call me on 03039 56641 03039 56641 03039 56641. And then I give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with us this morning. We're streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Z Multimedia. You may want to visit those platforms. Drop a comment on our post and we'll read those comments for you. This one, we were talking about Nkrumah's vision and today's reality. Where are we as a country? How much work have we done in implementing some of the things that Nkrumah envisioned? And that is what we're talking about. I'm joined in studio. I have 3 guests here. I have Alassane Suleiman Bello. He is the Executive Director of Dan Rakia Institute. And also in studio is Michael Akpene Afolabi. He is a news review pundit here. And also Abel Ansoluin Amodio, who joins us over the phone lines. He's a governance and policy strategist. These are the gentlemen I am speaking to this morning. And we're talking about Nkrumah's vision, the kinds of things that he planned, he envisioned, and how far we've come as a country. So feel free to join the conversation over the phone lines. So let me come back to you. I think Bello, you were speaking. Oh, Michael, it was you, Michael.
Yeah, it was Michael.
Yes. Oh, I think we can progress. I mean, it's a whole lot. A whole lot.
You don't know where to start.
Yeah, that's true.
You see, Kwame Nkrumah's vision.
But you know, maybe there's somebody listening to us who feels like, okay, there is no hope. Is that what it is?
No.
Abel, go ahead.
Yes, no. I think basically, like someone put it, he said Nkrumah gave us factories and blueprints, and then we handed both to short-term politics, you know, and that has become what our lives revolves around. It's about ideas to sustain our now and then win votes in the next cycle of elections. And so taking decisive actions have become very difficult. But I don't think that we've lost our way through it all. You know, if you look at the period between 1966 to 1993, you know, interrupted by a lot of military interventions in our democracy, that stability that we needed was lost. And while I always argue that Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings had arguably one of the periods where he could have driven a lot of
I agree.
Yeah, done a lot, because he had 12 years, almost 12 years as a military leader, and then 8 years, you know, as a civilian leader. So you look at that, and you look at the period within China transformed, the period within Singapore transformed. You look at the period within which Malaysia transformed. All of them needing about
look at Rwanda, Kagame, the same period of time.
The same period of time.
That's what I was
just
exactly. They needed about 2 decades to get that going. So and so I've always said that I think Rawlings by far had the best chance. You know, within 2 decades to drive that positive development. But somehow things also didn't go well. But in areas like education, for example, I come from rural Ghana, and we must admit, whether we like it or not, we've seen a lot of investments in education go to rural Ghana. Today, there are a lot of children with dreams and aspirations because pre-compulsory universal basic education worked. We cannot run away from that fact.
Yeah.
Today, there are a lot of secondary education, institutions. By the time Nkrumah left power, of course, not much had been done. I think by the time he left, he had brought on stream about 6 to 10 senior secondary schools in the north. Today, we have over 100 of secondary education in the north. Under Jerry John Rawlings, we had the University of Development Studies go to the north, among others. So in the area of education, we've not, outdone his vision in the area of education about producing technical people. But at least we've seen much of our population access education. And I think that is a plus that we can pat ourselves in the back. If you look at our educational, if you compare Ghana's educational access and literacy rates to our peers in West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, it is something you can write home about. The area that we've not done much is truly industrialization, and that is where you can move your country from third world developing country to maybe first class. It's industrialization, and that is where we've not done well, But in the area of health, we can't really compare. I've done some studies, and there are some countries in Africa that their leadership, when they are not well, it is Ghana that they come to for good health service, But our leaders, the reverse is the funniest part, where our leaders go out of our country to Europe when they are not well. But there have been some improvements in the health sector. Not much that we wished for, not the way we wanted, because there are some districts that still don't have hospitals. There are some electoral areas that don't have health posts, or what we call chip compounds for primary health care, But overall, there have been some improvements. Like I want to say, it's not like we've gotten to where we want. It's not like Bello puts it well. I think when he said that, if Nkrumah was to be alive, and if maybe he was still at the helm of affairs for a period of maybe 5 to 10 years, extending beyond the 1966 coup, then most of us would have been living our dreams, and not the shattered lives that we are faced with, and the shattered realities we are faced with today. That is true, and I must agree with that. But like I'm saying, that we've made some positive strides in other areas, but the important areas is where we've not, the politics of MPP, NDC have divided. And that again goes back into the vision that Nkrumah preached, that people did not understand. That today, because of democracy, people want to hide behind certain things and say certain things. But multi-party democracy for Ghana, very young country, has also been a very, has also added to many of our problems today. Look at a party wins elections, and within the same year that party is forming government, people start talking about who will win the next election.
The next election is the next flag bearer.
The next flag bearer. The disruption that it feeds into our development issues. You have no idea, because you are in power and you are thinking about what can I do that will position this country well. And then at the same time, you are thinking about, what if I don't do this? In the next 4 years, our party is going to lose elections. So our development has become a matter of feeding into public perceptions and winning elections.
Yeah.
And not really about development in the long term that can support the aspirations and dreams of many Ghanaians. And mostly short-term development strategies don't lead us anywhere. And so that has become the issue. But we've made some strides in some areas, and all hope is not lost. I mean, we are here talking because of democracy. We are having this conversation and freeing our minds on what can be done and what has not been done and all that because of democracy. So the kanamin kebi amamuno enuna eye jumano anameboa. You know, some people in the past did not have the opportunities that young people today we have to free our minds to speak on national development issues like we are doing today. And I think that as we continue to shape some of these conversations going forward, there is hope for this country, you know.
Right. Let me bring in Bello. Bello, do you agree?
Well, I agree to a certain point, but not all. I think educational-wise, yes, we've gone beyond where Nkrumah left us or where he was, but I think we've also failed.
Why do you say that?
Because Zimbabwe became independent in 1981. At the time, the country was very, very backward academically.
Yeah.
At the time by the time Mugabe would be in his, I think, first decade in office, get towards the second decade. I mean, Zimbabwe was fine. Today, Zimbabwe has the highest literacy rate on the continent. If we have gained independent from 1957, and we haven't even matched up 80%, and somebody becomes free at 1981,
30 years later,
and match up and was able, he declared education a fundamental human right before even UN did. That was how come when he was overthrown, he wasn't humiliated. Because after the war, he forced every dropout to go back to school. So to understand that even in education we've even failed is to compare ourselves to Zimbabwe. I think our leaders have this tactics they do on us. If it comes to their benefit, we are being compared to the first world. If we come to the benefit of the ordinary man on the street, then we are being forced to look at our neighbors.
Yeah.
And it's very disconcerting for me, very, very, very irritating. And I think, for me, the biggest lesson we can learn from Nkrumah, like I said, is self-confidence. And then I think the way to start from is education, but not just being schooled, but being educated on who you are. I did philosophy.
How can we do that?
I did philosophy for a while, right?
Right.
I read Descartes' Meditation, but I wasn't told about Zara Jacob, a Ethiopian philosopher who preceded Descartes, who wrote something similar. So we are forced at the tertiary level to look up to the West. And you see, whatever the West...
I'm sure you remember political science class.
You see, whatever the West has become today is out of your own experience. So if we also don't align our education to be stimulated by our experiences, we would have problems. A typical example, when the British got to northern Nigeria, they wanted the typical Hausa farmer to grow cotton. But despite his lack of Western education, the Hausa farmer knew his land, that the land could not support cotton because of the scarcity of water. He chose to grow groundnut. And at independent, Nigeria was the highest exporter of groundnut on the continent. And sometimes we need to just go back to our people. Why were they doing certain things? If you've been to the villages, you see this earthenware pot they drink the water from.
Yeah.
It's so chilled and calm that... And you know the funny thing, when you're in the room, those earthenware rooms, like, if it's hot outside, it's cold inside. If it's cold outside, it's warm inside. I mean, those things were developed out of the necessity of our weather. So why not our scientists and engineers looking at how to just add value to those things to make them more durable?
Not to completely wipe them away.
Wipe them out. We've thrown so much indigenous knowledge out. I was I do a lot of things on security. There was this Nigerian guy I was discussing with. And he told me that the bandit in northern Nigeria has been criminalized. But that's not the problem. The root cause is about water scarcity and land. That because the cattle herders, the majority Fulani nomads, are not highly educated than the villages, the ethnic houses who are the town dwellers and the settled Fulanis who have gone to school have gone to grab all the land reserves, water reserves for the nomads. And he has no choice than to raid you. But it was a basic indigenous knowledge that in the past, if the farms were to be on the right side of the village, the left side is left bushy for the cattle. Do you know around the airport actually used to be a grazing field?
Oh, really?
That's why when we go towards East Legon, you see those narrow under bridges. They were meant for the cattle, not for the cars. That's why cars don't go. They can't pass there in double. They have to be single car at a time. Was meant to prevent those cattle crossing the road.
Wow.
That is putting indigenous knowledge into your design. I remember going to school with this, my turban. From the gate, wherever I'm going, I'm being asked, are you a student? Are you a student?
Yeah.
Must I look Western to be seen as civilized or educated? I beg your pardon. When we were reading and writing in Timbuktu, before the white came, this is how we were. Yeah. So we must now Africanize our tertiary education. Because basically it is most of us, the political science graduates, who want to go into politics.
Yeah.
But we are disconnected from the African reality. We knew more about the Karl Marx, the Engels.
Yeah.
Just name them. And very few or little about our African heroes.
Yeah.
And do you know this thing they say that in Africa women are marginalized? If you have a queen mother whose power almost rival that of the chief, where's the essence of marginalization? Women were not marginalized in Africa. No. Roles wasn't strictly defined. Although it's bad, but if you remember, Madame Efule Etunumbu was a business, although she was a slave trader, but she was a renowned businesswoman. Queen Amina of Zaria was a warrior queen.
Yeah.
Women weren't subdued. It's just that society felt that some roles were best left for women. So fine, we cannot take away that aspect. But we should always realize that women were not marginalized. And then so we can look inward for our solutions. And try to copy the West, and that's our problems. We try to look at the West. Yes, some of the best practices are there, but we're product of their own terrain, their own experiences. Let us also look at them. I think adapt them. When we adopt them, we should adapt them to our reality. Not just adapt and adopt them hook, line, and sinker. And that's the chaos. And that's the chaos in Nigeria. Nigeria, the first republic, had a regional system where powers were shared because of its ethnic demography and regional outlook. Obasanjo in 1979 wanted to replicate America. He created states, presidential system, or what do you call it, a federal structure. That took away the reality of the regions needed to maintain their certain identity. And today, down the line, gone. But look at Ghana, how our constitution was crafted. We tested 2 parliamentary systems, it failed. 57, 69, Busia.
Yeah.
2 presidential systems. First Republic, the Third Republic. So the framers of our constitution thought it wise. Let's merge the two and offer stability. It means when you look at yourself inwardly and find a solution, you can solve it. So if we're able to do it in our constitutional dispensation, our democratic journey, so far the most stable system, what do you call it, republic in Ghana is the Fourth Republic. All because it struck a balance between 2 failed systems. It means when we look inward within ourselves, we can better address our problems because we understand our problems.
Right.
And if Ghanaians have done it in the past, why can't we do it? First of all, we need to make sure we Africanize our what do you call it, tertiary education to understand our reality. Let the engineers go to the field for their practical. Let them understand our problem. And I think we're good to go.
Right. Okay, let's talk about some of the things that Nkrumah planned and their relevance today. What are some of the things that you think that if we went back to, we would be doing? I mean, we can do better, or we can pick up from, and do some of the great things. And we also talk about the ones that maybe right now, like, and Bello was saying earlier that we need to look at. We can't say we are taking everything that he
because of the geopolitical
changes and all of that. So, what are some of the things that we can go back to, or we need to go back to, as a country and as a continent? Maybe I'll come back to you, Bello. You start, and then Michael or Abel add something.
I think agriculture. If you look at throughout history, food security has been the basis of every civilization. If you're able to feed yourself, then you begin to think about the future. If you're able to agriculture, one, mechanized agriculture. Secondly, Nkrumah understands the importance of steel and energy in industrialization. That's why I was trying to build Valco.
Yeah.
So we can revisit that since we have the bauxite in large quantity that can be transformed into building steel, because you need steel for almost every industry, industrial product, from the rail tracks, just name them. Steel is very important. Energy. If we're able to stabilize our energy, have excess that can power our industry, we're able to, perfect our steel production, not just export it raw. I mean, and we're able to feed ourselves. Because if you look at our import bill on agriculture, particularly rice alone, I mean, it could solve a lot of our problems. And there's something that struck me very importantly when they said some cables imported by ECG I think were looted, whatever, and they were found in this pocket of steel factories.
Yeah.
It means that even if we can't have that huge complexes, if we can create this form of a group holdings, right, where this pocket, if it's found to be wrongly or involved in any wrong thing, can be confiscated by the state. And that could be the basis of our, but we need to focus on steel production, feeding ourselves, self-sufficiency in agriculture, and then, most importantly, energy. Because there's nothing you can do today without energy. Even the ordinary pure water supply needs energy to power a fridge. This will be the basis of our... And of course, education.
Yeah, very important. I was actually going to mention
I think we were working on that, now we are now focusing on TVET.
Yeah, I think right now there's some more attention.
We were working on that.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think that is the biggest credit we must give Nana.
Yeah.
The whole idea of, Ghana Beyond Aid. In as much as it became more hollow and rhetorical under his watch, the fact that he was able to raise that conversation, he was able to tell us that we need to focus on TVET. I mean, let's give him a credit for that.
Really
so now, subsequently, we must build on that, not to go back to what we did with Nkrumah, tarnish everything away and throw it away. You can't throw the baby away with the water.
Absolutely.
I think for me, this is the starting point.
Michael, how about you?
Well, my brother has said a lot, but what I'll add is that in the spirit of looking inward, still on education, we have to make sure that our young people understand the true history of our country and the true vision of Nkrumah for Ghana. Because...
I think everybody should read Nkrumah.
Exactly. That's...
Bello, what do you think?
I think the problem with reading Nkrumah is we've made Nkrumah look so distant from us.
That is the thing. And it's because Nkrumah is not present in the foundations of our education.
Yeah.
Today, our history books are saying this, tomorrow they are saying that. We need to make sure that attention that Nkrumah wanted us to have on our national history, right, is developed in our foundations of our education, such that from the ground up, from the lowest level, from the early beginnings all the way to the top, we are learning about Nkrumah. We are learning about his vision for Ghana, so that we will be grooming young leaders who will have that Nkrumah-like attitude, that pragmatism, not, excuse me to say, the current attitude of some of our leaders, right? It is not dependable. It is not something that can help us develop our country going forward, right?
Politics as usual.
Exactly. This is not the time for that. Looking at where we have gotten to in the history of our country, going back to what because we have all agreed that Kwame Nkrumah was a visionary. He had a foresight. So if we are integrating his vision and this foresight into our young children as they grow up, we are getting ready for a better society going forward.
Are you aware that you realize when Traore visited Ghana during the swearing of the president? Yeah. He received the most.
Yes. I think the president even mentioned it.
And if you look at what is happening in Burkina Faso today and in Mali, especially Burkina Faso, you see the way the guy is just importing stuff, and you could see the videos of them moving, trying to, build a country through his internal capacity.
I saw a very huge statue they're building for him.
Not just about the statue for him, the fact that he was, trying to industrialize the country, importing not just military hardware, but equipment for road construction. Whilst we are burning galamsey excavators, instead of giving them to the military to just use them, we have 40th Engineers Regiment, 49. We could give them to them.
So why are we banning them?
But are you aware this is just another product of learning from Nkrumah?
Exactly.
Because Thomas Sankara was actually what an Nkrumah is. Traore is emulating Thomas Sankara. Assimi Goïta is trying to emulate Modibo Keïta.
He's also an
Modibo Keïta was a strong ally of Nkrumah. You recall the Ghana-Mali-Guinea Union. So even the countries we look up to today, that even our citizens are trying to emulate, in as much as that is regular military rule, I have my own problem with the way they are fighting the insurgency, because they've lost more ground now than in the past where the French were there. And I also have a different opinion on should it be French-led or should it be West African-led. I think it's high time African countries intervene on that, but we are not talking about security today. But on the face value, whatever argument they're arguing about self-reliance, nationalism, is embedded within the lessons they've learned through their founding fathers who learned from Nkrumah. By extension, they are practicing Nkrumahism that we are running from.
So why can't we implement it? You see, why can't we also take it up?
The only person who used the military efficiently was Ichampo. Most of the constructions, the houses were done by the military engineers. So I was happy, I was very elated when the late Minister of Defense, Mr. Rest in Peace, said he was going to give the Cape Coast Accra Highway to the military. And they worked very well.
I think even on the...
And we have prisoners sentenced to hard labor. So if the military is building the roads, they can provide the labor.
Exactly.
It's about looking internally, reducing the cost of awarding contracts and going for loans.
You know, the bridge on the Peshi Lagoon, the temporal bridge, it was built by the military.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Kintampo Water Force.
Towards Kofi Annan.
So after Kofi Annan entering, entering Labadi proper, that bridge.
Oh, I see.
They put it together.
You recall the Kintampo Water Force disaster, where I think something fell out.
Yeah.
It took the military 1 month. No, they were given a 1 month timeline. It was completed before. No, it wasn't completed before then. And Ghana Armed Forces does not lack capacity.
No.
We have all the human resources we need. So we don't lack the capacity, we don't lack the technical know-how.
We have it all.
We just lack the guidance. I was reading this article on Military Africa. It's on Security Magazine. Do you know, as it sounds today, Africa has perfected production of mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles.
What is that?
It's this kind of vehicles that you use that when there's IED on the ground, it hits, it deflects, so the troops are saved in the vehicle. Even the VIN, that technology was invented in Africa during apartheid, although it was by the whites, so by then. Post that era, initially were importing. But today, countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Algeria, Egypt have taken the lead. And they perfected it to the point, it means across the continent itself, there's no shortage of capacity. People just don't buy into your ideas. Godfatherism. And until we begin to,
let me come to Abel. Abel, you've been quiet on the. You've been listening to whatever we've been talking about. What are some of the things that you think that we need to go back to?
Yeah. When we talk about education, I don't think everything was rosy in the area of education. And that, Lee Kuan Yew tells a story of visiting Ghana, and then when they got to the University of Ghana and Nkrumah was going to present one of Ghana's best in education, he presented someone who was a professor of classics, and Lee Kuan Yew went away thinking, how can a country like Ghana develop if your best brains were reading classics and other things? So it tells you that even at the time where industrialization and other things were taking place, the human resource with the technical capacity to mount those industries were not readily available. And in fact, that is one of the arguments in the literature for why most of our state-led industries collapsed. So again, it tells you that the issue of education is very critical if we can get out of the woods that we are in. So basically, I would say that many people have said maybe one of Nkrumah's issues or problems was that he was in a haste. And I've mentioned that if Nkrumah was in a haste,
and he was able to do
then
this,
the current leadership, our current leadership, is half-hearted. They don't dream big, and we don't build systems that are supposed to outlive headlines. Our leadership today is concerned with headlines. What will capture the headlines? Look at the issues we are talking about in this country. You take a media survey in the past 1 week, 2 weeks. In fact, I've become traumatized. I don't even media nowadays much, because the conversations that we have on our media, not conversations, and we can learn from Nkrumah, definitely, as for me, is the issue that our independence without industrial power, it still leads us to square one, dependence on the colonial masters we fought. Neo-colonialism. And we have to get our industrial plans to work.
All right.
Bello has spoken about agriculture. It's one of the big issues. I've been reviewing the political parties' manifesto since 1992. You read and you'll be amazed. Agriculture, the backbone of Ghana's economy. Industrialization, that is the path to develop us. That has been the conversation from 1992.
It's
so
easy
the things
to say.
we are talking about today, it is not that the political parties or the leadership don't
It's
know.
just a change of wording all the time.
They've been recycling, and that is where my research interest is. And when we went to the field, a lot of the respondents agreed that political parties have been recycling their promises since 1992. And then we went into the manifestos, and it will shock you. You know, the issue of primary health education. Today, the NDC promised free primary health education. That has been in the NDC manifesto since 1992. Primary health care. National health insurance since 1992 has been with us. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The issue of education, whether progressive free education or outright free education, has been on the drawing board, even at the Consultative Assembly. That is why the debate ended up with progressive free education in every sector. So it is not like there are new things we are talking about.
Right.
And that's why I said it's the half-heartedness of our leadership. That is why we are still where we are today. We must dream big, and we must build systems that outlive the headlines that we seek to control. If not, we'll continue in this cyclical, and Baumia put it, cyclical downward spiral. We'll go, come back around the same issues, go, come back around the same issues. We have an opportunity. And for me, that opportunity is that there's a new government. And today, that new government must go back to the drawing board. What can we do better?
Right.
What can we do so that in the next 4 years, in the next 5 years, when Ghanaian people look back, they'll say, you had vision, you had foresight, and we are beginning to see it. And maybe we can make some progress.
Are you aware that even in agriculture, the biggest danger to cocoa is not just galamsey?
Yeah.
It's about aging farmers.
Exactly.
Farmers are aging, but because agriculture has been made to look so worthless, and it's not encouraging for the youth to go because you can't even access land.
Exactly.
I mean, the cost of land. So now they are aging, and the youth are not going there.
Yeah.
So even if the land are there without galamsey, there will be no hands to work on the farm.
So that means the end result.
So our goal of trying to expand cocoa production, whatever, becomes
So we even struggle with food even more than the water situation.
There are farm place enclaves. If you look at that farm place enclave, that's a very huge agricultural basket. In fact, the whole idea of the Akosombo Dam was also to provide partly a very huge agricultural activity along the Eastern Corridor. That was in 1960s there, when Nkrumah was dreaming about the Akosombo Dam and bringing it to.
I have a personal contact with Nkrumah's vision. I did my national service at Office of the Administrator of Stool Lands at Wager.
Okay.
So we do normally go to the field to share ground rent.
Right.
On Wednesdays, I think on Mondays. There's a part of Wager, Kokulobite, we went to. And when I got there, I saw the land. I saw the way the land looked so fertile and I mean very close to water. And I was like, telling a colleague, he's still around there. I mean, this is a very good land for agriculture. Then he told me that I should take a look at the land. You could see some pillars, so markets. That's a designated agricultural zone. And he said the idea was that Nkrumah knew that Accra will become congested and there will be land scarcity.
Wow.
So that part was reserved for agriculture.
In 1960.
Exactly.
I got it and I was like, this is so good for agriculture.
My God.
So that was my personal contact with Nkrumah's vision. So when I say this thing is traumatic for me, it's because
and the point I was going to make is that in all of these areas, these current political parties have recycled all of these issues.
Oh, it has become a real estate zone.
Yes. No. In fact, I'm talking about even the farm area. As for the Wager area, there is gone. It's long gone. You know, have you been to Chado before?
No.
I mean, Chado. Yes, Chado also was supposed to be a farming enclave. You know.
Really.
And so if you come to Chado, you realize that the area is it's waterlogged. But the whole place has been filled up, and it's now a very where you come,
prime
it's a beautiful residential area, a prime area. You even know that
that was a plan initially.
A decade ago, it was supporting farming activity. And I tell you that all these things, the interesting thing for me is that it's not like our leadership are not aware. It will interest you to sit with some of them and talk, and you see how they articulate these very issues. You know, and for me, it goes to the lack of conviction in all of this. The greed that has taken over in our national politics. Our politics today is not about public service. It's about self-interest. And for Nkrumah embodied public service, serving the country, serving your continent. And talking about service. And that is what we are lacking in our system.
Maybe we'll wrap up on that note. Okay, well, we actually said we're going to talk about some leadership stuff. But talking about service, I actually saw a post today on social media where a gentleman was talking about the fact that in a part of the world, the country serves the people in leadership than it serves its people. Because I don't want to mention the particular office, but there are people who occupy certain positions and the kinds of things they are enjoying, from gardeners to housing allowance to cooking, clothing allowance to all kinds of things. When there are schools,
article, what do you call that article? The constitution article
71 or something.
I mean, it's the most absurd part of that constitution.
And all kinds of things.
Nobody wants to die penniless as Nkrumah did.
Yeah,
that's
nobody wants to.
It's a lack of political will.
So they want to secure themselves.
You know, I met this Chinese girl on campus, and she told me that her grandparents were poor farmers. By the time she was going to school, when I went to check the school, That was the second most prized school when it comes to entrepreneurship in the United States. So just look at the transition from poor farmers to a parent being able to afford to send it to such an expensive school, babs and college. But you see, those generation who built China didn't enjoy for their descendants. But our political elites want to build and enjoy together with us.
Nobody wants to pay the price.
Gentlemen, let's try and wrap up. So of course, every leader has both strengths and weaknesses. I know we've tried to tout Dr. Nkrumah's, all the good things about him and all of that. What are some of the weaknesses that there are, and what can we learn from that going forward? Maybe we can just touch on those ones and then we can wrap up. Let me start with you, Michael.
Well, like we have, we've agreed that the issue of he convening a one-party, making Ghana what has been described a one-party state, was something that was misunderstood. But at the same time, during the pendency of that, activity, we saw some issues within our justice system, among other things. The Preventive Detention Acts, and how it puts a lot of political persons in prison for issues that were not really offenses. You understand? That is a shortfall that we need to take note of, right? We need to take note of, and some of the powers that the president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, had. He had the power to dismiss Supreme Court justices without recourse to any law or anything. These are some issues that we need to make sure that as young and emerging leaders, we do not take that side of things, right? And even today, the geopolitical situation of Africa and the world as a whole will not permit such acts to be undertaken. But we shouldn't take that side of Kwame Nkrumah. Like Bello mentioned, he was a human being.
Absolutely.
There's no perfect human being on this earth, right? So even as we celebrate his vision, we need to make sure that those flaws that he had, we do not take them up as part of our value system to develop our country.
Okay, all right, Abel. What would you also say?
Me, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, we whether we like it or not. Yes, Nkrumah was authoritarian at times.
Yeah.
But authoritarianism alone didn't build Akosombo Dam. It was leadership and institution. So we must acknowledge that issues like the Preventive Detention Act, its history and what it did, we must learn from that. Whilst learning from that, we must shift to institutions and leadership that anchor a lot of our stuff. We can't also blame history alone, for where we've come. We can analyze Nkrumah and blame some of the things he did. I think that is a very safe way to look at things. But policy choices since 1996 and 1966, policy choices into the 1980s also matter. What happened between 1966 to 1980? Bello was talking about Zimbabwe gaining independence in the early 1980s. We wasted over 3 decades, experimenting with parliamentary systems, military regimes, presidential systems, among others. We wasted a lot of time. And between that, the policy revisionism that underpinned most of our politics have still lived, and that is what has gotten to us today. We can't even agree on a Founders Day, whether it's a Founders Day with apostrophe after the S or before the S.
Whether is it Flagstaff House or Jubilee House?
You see?
Whether Jubilee House or Flagstaff House. Do you understand?
Yeah.
All of them. Issues that we cannot overlook. So our policy choices since 1966 and 1988 also matter. So accountability and continuity must matter in the visions that are being brought in for us to fall in. And so as we talk about all these things, I feel that Nkrumah gave us a compass, to navigate our way. We replace the map with our week-to-week politics. And we are ripping from our week-to-week divisive politics. We must look for the map again and go back to the drawing board.
Right. Okay, Bello.
I think for me it's two things. One is Nkrumah himself saw the futility of building leadership or power around individual. So if you look at Nkrumah post-Guinea, he said somewhere that if he got a chance to come back, he would have relinquished administration of Ghana to the party itself. Whilst he decided the PDRC law to just be as a guide. Yeah. That's the man admitting that he went far.
Went overboard.
Yeah, overboard. There was too much concentration of power. So I think that should be like, we should avoid creating a emperor-like president. And that I would link it to our call for constitutional review. Because whether we like it or not, this constitution creates a potential Nkrumah. For whatever issues we have, we saw how that power can be used viciously under the just our state government. Yeah. Now, Akufo-Addo became uncontested. He said does what he wants, to the point where those how should I call it? People protesting against Galamsey were being dealt with by state powers, whilst the water was being polluted. That is not to say that so far the government also has done what it promised to do. But I'm going to tell you that how the constitution, because of the over-concentration of powers in the hands of one individual, can be used to create an Nkrumah-like authoritarian style. So there's a need for us to, reform the constitution. Because even Nkrumah himself admitted it. And then, we should avoid keeping latent powers. Today, Trump is using those latent powers abusively. The Insurrection Act and all those acts that were there that other leaders have ethically refused to use. So we should look at how our laws are crafted. And then, interestingly, I would like to quote Nkrumah himself. For me, that is the kind of personality we should try to create. Because if you have that kind of a personality, then our problems, I think, will be solved. And he said, for this end, African is a new type of citizen, a dedicated, modest, honest, and informed man. A man who submerges self in service to the nation and mankind. A man who abhors greed and detests vanity. A new type of man whose humility is his strength and whose integrity is his greatness.
Wow. I think that's a good way to wrap up the show. That's very. I like that quote. I think I have to read that again. But are you done?
Yeah.
Very interesting things. Now, if there's anybody listening to us, one thing they should pick from Nkrumah, what would you say? Let me just come to you, and that will be our last question. I'll start with Abel, and then I come and end in studio. Abel.
Yes.
Anything that somebody should pick?
Yes, I've met.
There's one lesson.
I've mentioned that. I've mentioned that over and over in my submission that. Public service, the spirit of public service. And that is what Bello just ended with that quote, Nkrumah's definition of the new African, of who a citizen should be, an African citizen should be. And that for me is the embodiment of public service, that you serve your nation, you serve your country, and it is not about the so many allowances and the thing. No. A public service in itself, once you serve your country well, your country will also serve you well.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's the spirit of public service. Nkrumah was an embodiment of that, and that is what we must aspire to live.
Right. Thank you very much, Abel. Michael.
Well, I'll also add that selfless leadership. Kwame Nkrumah did not think about himself, but at every point in time and in everything that he did for Ghana, he thought about Ghana.
Absolutely.
Right. And another thing I would like to add is the fact that we need to learn to look within ourselves on what we can do to solve our own problems. We need to learn that attitude. We need to learn that character. Otherwise, there are many simple things, simple solutions that we will tend to complicate by trying to get solutions from outside, which is going to cost us so much. We should learn to look within to solve our own developmental challenges.
Right. Okay. And finally, Bello.
For me, it's I think it's patriotism and self-sufficiency. And like Nkrumah said, seek your political independence and everything shall be added to it. I think patriotism, once you're patriotic, the spirit of service to the nation, what do you call it, protecting national interest, sovereignty. I mean, they all become what? The building block. But the foundation is just, what do you call it? It's simply what? Patriotism. Once you love your country, you serve your country.
Right.
That's what we should.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been a great conversation. Really, really grateful that you came. Thank you so much for coming. All right, Abel and Solomon Amodioke, who joined us over the phone lines, is a governance and policy strategist. And Michael Akpene Afolabi, who joined me in studio as News Review Pandit here. And also my guest, Alhassan Suleiman Bello, is the Executive Director of Dan Rakia Institute. And these are the gentlemen who joined me this morning for this all-important conversation. I want to give you the quote that Bello read, and that is something in Nkrumah's Africa Must Unite book. And he says that for this end, Africa needs a new type of citizen, a dedicated, modest, honest, and informed man. A man who submerges self in service to the nation and mankind. A man who abhors greed and detests vanity. A new type of man whose humility is his strength and whose integrity is greatness. My God. These are powerful words. But that's how we leave you this morning. We're back again tomorrow for more interesting conversations. Until we meet again, please pick the lessons. Please pick the lessons from Nkrumah and do well to read Nkrumah. I think everybody should. And do enjoy the rest of the holiday. And I'll see you tomorrow. When you think Ghana, please think Z. I'll see you. Bye-bye.